The information contained in this video is provided for your general information only. It does not offer medical advice or engage in the practice of medicine. The video under no circumstance offers treatment for specific conditions, nor is it intended to diagnose conditions. You should always consult with your primary care physician or medical center to determine if massage therapy is appropriate for you.
Hi, I'm Matt Gibble, and I own Reigning Faith Massage. I got started doing massage therapy, doing self-massage back in the 80s when I was a teenager racing bicycles. Professional endurance athletes use massage therapy on a regular basis to quicken the recovery process. So I've developed a video to show you how to do self-massage for recovery in a 20-minute sequence. Incorporating this into your recovery will allow you to get back to your harder training effort sooner and to feel fresher faster. Let's head inside and get started with this 20-minute sequence. Okay, so now we're done with our ride. We've come inside, we've showered, getting ready for the massage. But first I want to talk about why self-massage. For many years, professional cycling teams have been using massage therapists, or what they call soigneurs, in a support role. So a typical professional cyclist during, say, a 3-week race like the Tour de France is racing every day, and immediately afterwards they're eating and they're getting massage to quicken the recovery process so they can race at their top level from day to day. Research has now shown what happens with massage in the recovery process. So they did some biopsies of cyclists after they had gotten off of the bicycle, and they took a biopsy immediately after that. Then they did 10 minutes of massage very specifically on a part of the quadriceps femoris. 2 hours later, they took another biopsy sample and found out that there was an actual change in the tissue at the cellular level of the muscle. So what was happening was inflammation is being reduced, and they're finding out that the muscle cells are beginning to repair themselves, and so they can recover more quickly. So that's what's happening. But the reality is, most of us can't get professional massage within 30 minutes after we're done swimming or running or riding or whatever our endurance sport might be. So this self-massage technique is something that a person can do in 20 minutes after they get done with their training. They get that first nutrition in what we call the 30-minute window to quicken that recovery process, and then incorporate the self-massage into the harder days, and especially hard race days, so they can recover more quickly. So we know that the gains in training come in recovery. They don't come during specific hard training. It's only in the recovery where you really make the gains to increase your level to a higher performance. We're talking about the type of thing that can be done 4 to 5 times a week after your hard training rides, after hard races. Can be done in a motel, can be done at home, can be done in a park, can be done just about anywhere, as long as you have some massage cream and a place to sit down. So let's talk about what this is not. This is not deep tissue massage. This is not geared towards treating specific conditions that you might be having a problem with. That's better spent seeing a doctor, physical therapist, having your own professional massage therapist that can work with that. So we're looking at more of a Swedish massage technique. This is very invigorating. Is to stir up the circulation and get that moving, and just geared towards something that you could do on a regular basis. So you could do this 4 or 5 days in a row if you were doing a stage race or a multi-day event, and your legs would not be sore because of the work. They would feel fresher and they would feel lighter because of the work. So let's talk about the setup that you're going to have. Today I'll be working on a massage table, but if I was doing this myself after a training ride, a ride on the bike, I would just set up a towel on the floor and be able to have my back against the wall for support. And that's really all you need. Want to make sure you put a towel down because you'll be using creams, and I prefer to use massage creams versus massage oils. Oils are just really messy and they're hard to work with, and there's some very good creams out there. I have developed a sports massage cream that I'm offering for sale that you can purchase through my website that will work really well with the self-massage. Has a nice amount of glide. If you use more of the cream, you'll get more glide. If you use less, it's going to work a little bit better for deeper work and for friction. It is hypoallergenic and contains arnica extract as well as essential oils. Okay, so we're going to talk about the massage strokes that are needed. You're going to use approximately 5 different strokes to be able to do the 20-minute sequence. Now I'm going to show you the different strokes and specifically how they look at a slower speed. So once we get to the 20-minute sequence, you'll be able to follow along with that as you go. So the first stroke we're going to start with is called effleurage. I'm going to get a fairly liberal amount of massage cream onto my hands, and I'm just going to work that through the whole leg. And so the effleurage is really geared towards warming the tissue. And so what I'm doing is I'm using my whole hand, both hands, wrapping around the leg three-dimensionally and spreading that massage cream out. I'm going to continue to do that until I feel the tissue warm up. Once the tissue begins to warm in my hand, I'm ready to move to a slightly deeper stroke. So once we've done the effleurage, we'll begin to move on to petrissage. Petrissage really means just kneading the tissue, much like you would knead bread dough. So that takes on a variety of different looks. One way I might do that is using my thumbs, going thumb over thumb as I work slightly deeper into the tissue. The petrissage is the magic stroke to quicken the recovery process. I also might take all of my fingers and work into the tissue like that. I can also lift the tissue into my hands, get a little bit of a bigger grip. I also might take the fingers and work in a circular motion as well. But all of these are what we call petrissage. Another stroke we're going to talk about is friction. And what that involves is just moving back and forth on the tissue, heating up the muscle fibers. This helps to align fibers, but it creates heat. I can do that either linear fashion like this or in a circular fashion like this. And what I feel there is a temperature change in the tissue where it's really warming it up. It may even begin to turn red. The other thing we'll do is muscles really like to be shaken up. So we're going to do some vibration. One way that we might do that is what we call more of a coarse or general vibration. And if I was going to do that on my leg, my quadriceps, incorporating the hamstrings, I would shake all these muscles. And that would be coarse vibration. A fine vibration would be where I might take my fingertips and hook in underneath my IT band and then use my other hand to get more of a fine vibration to come along that IT band. And of course, we have to incorporate tapotement into our massage. And this is what I call the classic movie massage. You know, when you're watching the movie and the mob guy's getting beat up on by the massage therapist, it's all very strong. So what we're going to do is just take our fists. We might do that. We might take our fingertips and pick the tissue up. We might take a karate chop fashion. Anything like that is called tapotement. Now we're ready for the 20-minute sequence. So we're going to move into the 20-minute sequence, and this is designed basically paint by numbers for massage. So you can play this on your iPad, on your phone, follow along, but realize after you've done this 6 times, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, you're going to know what it looks like. The great thing about massage is it's very individual. You're going to find out what works best for you, how you feel the best, and how you're recovering the best. So you're going to take these different techniques and you're going to create your own recipe for success. Now let's get started with the 20-minute sequence. Okay, so now we're going to work with the 20-minute sequence. I'm not going to speak as much and there won't be as much dialogue because I want this to be a bit of a reflective and meditative time as you work through the 20-minute sequence. So what we're going to start with is getting our massage cream, getting that spread out, and beginning with effleurage. And we're going to start with the quadriceps femoris. Once the tissue warms up, I'm going to begin with the vastus medialis. I'm working thumb over thumb. And I like to trace that border of the muscle. And you'll be able to feel that. It's a nice teardrop shape, with the teardrop being closer to the upper part of the body, coming down, meeting the knee. Going to work that thumb over thumb, incorporating the petrissage, feeling the tissue warm up. I can take my knuckles and use them to petrissage as well. And the key is that you want to work in a way where it's not too taxing on your upper body. Once I'm feeling that tissue get nice and warm, and you might even see some color change where the tissue begins to turn pink or red. So that means the capillaries are opening up and we're getting an increase in blood supply to that specific muscle. From there, I'm going to move on to the rectus femoris. See that pop up right there? That's starting up here at the hip, coming down to the knee, underneath the kneecap. All of our quadriceps femoris muscles are inserting below the knee. Same thing, I might work thumb over thumb. Might use my knuckles in this fashion. I might even take this knife edge of my thumb and drag towards the heart. So generally, with a Swedish massage technique, such as we're doing, we're working towards the heart. I might get a little bit more friction in there as I work myself to the outside, and now we're working on the vastus lateralis. So I'm working around the IT band, but I'm not worrying too much about getting a lot of work on the IT band. The IT band, or the iliotibial tract, begins up at the hip, works its way down, attaches on the lateral side of the knee. Its main function is lateral stability of the knee. It doesn't have the ability to shorten and lengthen like a muscle does. So we don't want to spend a lot of time getting caught up on the IT band. We want to think about the vastus lateralis. Can use that petrissage stroke to go back and forth on the vastus lateralis. Get some knuckles in there. Even take my knuckles, go hand over hand. Get some nice friction going. So now we've worked that vastus lateralis, gotten that warmed up. I may come with my fingertips and get underneath the IT band just a little bit and just do some fine vibration. So I'm not really thinking about going very deeply here, but I do want to make sure that the vastus lateralis isn't sticking to the IT band. So this is about the deepest work we're going to do, and it's still not very deep. This should not be painful at all. Maybe a little tender, but we're not going to go real deep here. Now come back to the effleurage, incorporate some tapotement. Shake that muscle and wake it up. Now what I'm going to do is bring the leg up to a position that's easier for me to work with. I'm going to take the towel, wrap that around the foot, so that anchors my leg. It's not going to go anywhere. Going to move into working with the hamstring. I'm going to begin with some effleurage of the hamstrings. Remembering that the hamstrings all start right here at the sits bone, branch into 3 different muscles. One is coming primarily down here onto the outside, 2 that are a little closer to the center of the body. Now moving from effleurage right into a more vigorous petrissage. I'll pick up speed and really begin to drag into that muscle, starting up high. I can feel the tissue warming up. I'll work my way down, lower, towards that ischial tuberosity, or the sits bone. Now I'm going to take both fingers, 8 fingers like this, and I come in, and I'm going to vibrate down through that muscle. I'm starting at the outside, working towards the inside. Come back in, shake it out. Combination of vibration and petrissage. Gonna finish with some effleurage. So we're working generally with the effleurage into a more specific stroke, and then always coming back to a general stroke. Finishing up, just shaking that all around. Now we're going to move into the calf. So I'm beginning with my effleurage again, starting right at the Achilles tendon. So I'm coming right above the heel, pulling the whole way just to the back of the knee, but I never want to work deeply right at the back of the knee. Once that tissue warms up, then I'll start to get a little more specific. I love to take my thumb like that, stabilize with this hand, and do a nice circular motion into that gastrocnemius. Remember, the gastrocnemius has 2 heads, so I'm working the lateral or the more outside of the 2, getting specific to the muscle that I'm looking to help out. Now I'll switch. Stabilize with my right hand if I'm working the right leg. Same technique, working in a circular fashion. Coming back to a little deeper effleurage. So now I'm going to take both thumbs, sort of make a V, come between the 2 heads of the gastroc, and work up and down. If you are a runner, it's a very good technique to help with shin splints, also to help with plantar fasciitis issues. Going to move out of that and move into a Topotman stroke, where I'm taking my fingertips and I'm batting against the muscle. So you should be able to see your calf muscle move from left to right very quickly as you tapote that. You can also gently rake through the calf muscle and alternate back and forth between those 2 techniques. Finish out with some nice light effleurage into that calf muscle. Help that recovery. We also have the tibialis anterior on top of the shin bone. This is such a big muscle for runners that I don't want to ignore it. So I'm just coming down with 2 or 3 fingertips and really dragging that up. This isn't such a thick muscle that I can pick up and really do petra massage with. can really feel that. I did a backpacking trip this weekend. As I get closer to the shin bone, and it's more and more tender, so I like to vibrate that, stimulate that tissue as I'm coming up. I finish off with a little effleurage. Again, just taking that nice knife edge of my thumb, a circular motion back and forth, finish that off. Straighten the leg out. Work effleurage through the whole leg. Begin to work toward the other side. So now before we move to the left leg, I want to point out some of the differences that we can visually see because I've done massage on one leg but not on the other. A little bit richer color here. Some of that is because I've used some massage cream here, but the tissue might turn a little pinker or a little bit more red. But what I really want to point out is if you look in the lower leg and the calf, see how the veins are popping up, and we have definitely increased circulation. So we've jump-started that process to recovery already, whereas on this leg, not quite the same look yet. That's the kind of thing that you want to look for. So you're using all your senses. You're feeling more heat in your hands, you're using your eyes, seeing more redness or a pink to the tissue, and also where the veins are starting to pop up on a leaner leg. Let's move to the left leg. And I'm going to work through this at speed and not talk so much. And so you get a real good idea of what this is going to look like once you have this perfected. And you're using self-massage as a really great recovery tool. Once you make friends with a really nice massage cream, you'll want to stick with it. So you'll notice I've made one application and I can already tell this is going to give me the right glide to work through this whole quadriceps femoris. What I'm doing is some petrissage, and then I often come back through with some strokes like that to see what the muscle feels like. This is something a massage therapist can't do for you. So because you're working on your own muscles, you can check right in and see if there's any change. Coming into the groin muscle a little bit, I didn't point this out on the right leg, but working these adductor muscles, which can be really helpful for runners, specifically sprinters. Certainly for inline skaters, speed skaters, very advantageous to work the adductors. So depending on your sport, you might spend a little bit more time on your adductors versus the quads, or vice versa. Working the rectus femoris now. Taking my knuckles Circular motion, a little petrissage, a little circular friction, where it's a little more tender, spend a little more time. If a muscle is really tender, tapotement for more than 15 seconds will help to relax that muscle. You can come back in and find out if there's less tenderness to that tissue. Good old tapotement. Finishing off with effleurage to work to the hamstring. See the pink in the tissue? Getting some changes there. From the position of working with the hamstrings, I can also get back into the adductors a little bit more. Dragging my fingertips like a rake towards the heart. What I'm really doing here is, see that part of my knuckle? That's where I'm pulling through the tissue. So I'm going like this, not using my fingertips, just flicking as I come up. So it's a nice transition from the effleurage into a more specific petrissage. It should feel invigorating. Your muscles and legs should feel light and fresh throughout the day after you do this, and especially the next day. Should really help to where you don't have that heavy leg sensation that you might feel as you try to go to sleep, and which even can keep you from sleeping. So, you know, this should really be relaxing. So when you're sleeping, the body is recovering and preparing for the next day's workout. Finishing up with effleurage in the calf, transitioning right into the tibialis anterior. This is one muscle you can give a little bit more pressure to. Taking my fingertips, hooking in, coming on top, and shaking right through that. That really feels great. Trail runners will really love this technique. So I'll finish up with this leg, straighten it out. Come into some full leg effleurage. Like that. The last trick I like to employ is when I'm all done, what I like to do is sort of spin around, throw my legs up against the wall, open my chest up for about 10 minutes, just chill out. Maybe take a little snooze. That's the 20-minute sequence. You're going to take those different strokes and create a recipe and something beautiful that's going to help you recover from day to day. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. If you have ideas for new videos or specific things that you'd like to see, let me know about that as well. Good luck at your next race or event. So here's some extra tips or tricks that you can throw in for some of the more problem areas that you might find depending on what your endurance sport is. The first muscle we want to address very specifically is called tentor fasciae lata, or TFL. This is a very short muscle that starts up here at the top of the hip, wraps around, and you're going to find this by feeling it right here, and hooks into the front of the hip, the IT band. This can cause problems if it's too tight. You'll feel it running. You'll feel it if you're doing a lot of climbing on the bike. If you're hiking, this will really start to ache. When it gets really tight, it can develop trigger points where you might feel them down the IT band, even as far as the lateral side of the knee. So the problem isn't always with the IT band. It's a fact with the muscle. The TFL is too tight. It's hooking into the IT band and it's yanking it up, creating so much tension that it can cause lateral knee pain. To find this muscle, you're going to take your thumb and put it approximately here on the front of the hip. To know that you're on the muscle, you're going to push with your knee into the hand, and that muscle should pop right up. If you can just rotate the hip, it should pop up. Look at my thumb. See how that pushes out? So once I've found the muscle, I can warm it up with my thumb, just doing some circular friction, and you're working right through your shorts, which is fine. But once I've warmed that up, what I want to do then is to keep my other hand on it, take my elbow, pin it right in there. It helps if I sort of bend my leg. And I'm going to come in with the elbow and go back and forth on those fibers. It's going to be pretty tender. It's a little deeper technique. This is really addressing some problem areas that might develop. Once I've gone back and forth like that for maybe 45 seconds up to a minute, I wouldn't do any longer than that. Come back out, hit it with some tapotement. Use the heel of your hand to do some circular friction. That will help a lot with IT band issues that you might be feeling. So now I'm going to show you a trick in working with some IT band issues. This seems to be a big problem for a lot of endurance athletes, and the way they're targeting it is really rolling on it with a foam roller and doing some very aggressive techniques, which in my mind aren't really all that helpful. I'm going to do a whole separate video down the road targeting IT band issues, but what I want to do today is show you something that you can quickly do in a couple minutes to help with that. So the IT band is starting up here at the hip. I can strum back and forth across those fibers. It's typically very tender, coming the whole way down here, and you can see where that tendon, and you can especially feel it, hooks into the lateral side of the knee. Okay. My pet peeve with the massage therapist are those that crank so hard on this that I'm holding my breath and it's not pleasant at all. If you're holding your breath, you're not getting maximum benefit. So what I like to do is take my fingertips, hook underneath the IT band, start down at the knee, and roll up and across. And so what that's doing is helping to make sure that the IT band isn't sticking to any muscles, specifically the vastus lateralis. Because if it is, every time the vastus lateralis moves, the IT band is going to move with it. And I can feel that actually releasing underneath there. This is going to be a little tender. It's just the nature of the IT band. But it's much better than lying on a foam roller, gasping in pain, making so much noise that your spouse is calling 911, thinking that you're having a heart attack. Then make sure you come back over that and do some general effleurage, even getting in, sort of hooking into the tissue, and just moving back and forth like that. It's a great way to keep that IT band and the associated musculature very happy. Sometimes endurance athletes, specifically runners, cyclists that are doing a lot of training, a lot of segments of climbing for 30, 40 minutes at a time, will develop some pain underneath the kneecap or even down into the patellar tendon that hooks in here below the kneecap. So a really great technique that was taught to me by an instructor years ago when I was in school. I was having some knee pain when I used to have a job delivering milk. So I was bouncing in and out of a truck a couple hundred times a night, and I would get knee pain specifically when I would go up the steps. I would feel it. If I sat in a movie theater for long periods of time, I would get a lot of knee pain. So what she showed me to do was this: to work this rectus femoris muscle. Take these thumbs, make a little snow plow, come down there, add some vibration in. Look at the red stripe behind my thumbs as I go down. Working my way to the knee. When I get to the kneecap, lighten up, come across, and sort of shake like that. Come back to where I started, throw some vibration in, right down to the knee. Make sure you lighten up, come across, go back and forth like that. You can do that half a dozen times. It's a little deeper technique, working out some of those fibers that might not be aligning up. Can do that. And that will help. You can do a simple stretch, standing up, pulling your heel towards your hip to get a nice stretch through the quad immediately after you do that. As you can see, we've already got a change with the change of the color of the tissue right here in the rectus femoris. This is targeting the rectus femoris muscle, which is one of the quadriceps femoris muscles. For runners who have problems with shin splints, you can get a number of different reasons why shin splints are occurring. But quite often it can be a problem with a muscle that's deep in the lower leg, and actually is accessed from the back. So what I'm going to do here is get deep here into this muscle. And so there's a muscle between the tibia and the fibula called the tibialis posterior. You will want to do this technique after you've done your recovery massage so everything's nice and warmed up. But what you're going to do is take your thumbs, get in there, pin that muscle, and then take your foot and move it back and forth. Start up below the knee, shouldn't be right behind the knee. I'm gliding down, pinning that muscle as I'm moving my ankle back and forth, and even now I can feel that, a little popping in the tissue. Those are adhesions breaking loose deep down. Right there, I really feel, I know I was going to feel that after this weekend of backpacking. Right at the bottom of that muscle, it's all sticky. And that's just going to open up. So that's really going to help with actual shin splint problems because this is a deep muscle in there. Then you're coming back and forth. Just make sure you do some effleurage to flush that out. Another big problem for a lot of people is plantar fasciitis. This can range from swimmers to runners to volleyball players. Just ends up being a problem. Typically, a lot of people will end up working on the bottom of the foot right here. I typically try and stay away from that. This is a thin sheath of fascia, and if you get in here and work this really hard with your hands or any other kind of object, you can actually create more inflammation and increase the problem instead of helping the problem. So what I like to do is address some different muscles, again, more in the calf, so you can use the same technique that we used with the shin splints, where you're pinning and stretching in there. The other thing I like to do is to hook onto the Achilles tendon and pin that. The more you can pin it, the better. And so if you've got too much oil in your hands, it might not work that great. So what you can do is just take your towel or a sheet to get a better grip. And you hang on to that, and you move that back and forth. And make sure that Achilles is not sticking. So if the muscles are sticking to the Achilles tendon, that's going to transfer through the back of the heel into the plantar fascia and create undue stress down there. Now as I get a little higher up, then what I'm going to do is find my shin bone, the tibia, where that edge is. I'm going to take my thumb, wrap around just directly behind it, again pinning that tissue. You can use both thumbs. Same thing, I'm moving my foot back and forth to release a deeper muscle that is in the lower leg. This muscle is called flexor digitorum longus. It flexes the four toes. And you're just working your way the whole way along that. There's another muscle called flexor hallucis longus. It is actually on this side. It's the same thing, so I'm going to find my fibula, wrap around there, pin underneath there a little bit, and then just move that back and forth. It's a great warm-up technique. Any muscle that you hold on to and pin and then begin to move is a great warm-up technique before working out. I want to thank you for watching this video and taking the time to try this technique. Remember to use this after every hard effort, after your big races, and I really think that you'll see some great results. Remember that you can find Soothing Rain Recovery Cream on my website. You can also look for additional products, embrocation, and videos there in the future. Thank you so much, and best wishes to you.